This week's film, I'm not even sure the people who made it went to film school. I mean, there is not a straight shot in the entire film. Everything's at an angle, or it's a wide shot, or it's. I don't even think the director went to film school. And it's got John Travolta in it, and he's over the top, completely over the top. So is Forrest Whitaker. So is Barry Peppers. And then everyone else is trying to act like it's serious. And then you got these three who are just completely over the top. If you can't guess, this week's film was Battlefield Earth. And it's just a clusterfuck. And you've got all these scenes that are just like epic, but you've got no normal scene. So it's like the epic scene is the normal scene, but then you got no epic scene because there's no epic scene because there's no epic scene. So you've got epic scenes. They're just normal scenes. It's probably the worst movie I ever seen. I know I said that last week about the hottie and the naughty, but this movie I want to turn off after 15 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, and then after 25 minutes, and then after 30 minutes. The only thing that got me through this movie was because I knew I had to review it. If not, I would have turned it off and said, screw this, called up Amazon and demanded a refund of my $3.99, which was probably actually for something after tax. Because this movie was that bad. We start out with Barry Pepper on a horse, looking for medicine, but being told his father died during the night. And then he buries his father, apparently, but says he doesn't believe in the demons when he's at the meeting that are taking people. And he doesn't believe in fate or the old ones who used to, or the gods who protect people. So that's how this movie starts. Once again, it starts epically, meaning there is no epic. So then he goes off on his horse on his own, leaving his woman behind, who gives him something that was his mother's to protect him. And then he fights a plastic dragon or a wooden dragon. I'm not sure what, it might be a metal dragon with a sword that scared his horse and meets up with two other people. And they say they can take him to the gods, see what the gods left, which is an old town, an old city. He gives them food so they can take him to it. And then we have an epic scene, which all these scenes are epic. Well, we have an even more epic scene, an epic fight scene of the demons apparently shooting these guys in the town to capture them. And then they get captured and they get things to breathe because they can't breathe in the aliens' town. And Barry Pepper kills one of the aliens. And then we meet John Travolta, who is so over the top that he might as well be on helium. And then we go through with Barry Pepper trying to get out of prison. And they get ready to kill him, but John Travolta has the idea to use man people, whatever he calls them, man animals, to mine. And he's going to start with Barry Pepper's character of Johnny, because Johnny is a wild one. Why you'd start the wildest one, I don't know, but he is. Because John Travolta's character has been stuck there for like a cycle, and now they've renewed his contract for 50 cycles, and he is going crazy. So that is the basic plot of this movie. John Travolta is doing something illegal, and he set up Forrest Whitaker on tape to be the patsy. And yeah, so they take these man animals and Barry Pepper's character and several others, and they strap Barry Pepper, who plays Johnny. So I'm just going to call him Johnny from now on. So I strap Johnny in this thing that teaches him the alien that John Travolta's playing, called the Cyclone. His name is Tedder or Teether or Tedder or Tedder or Jetter or whatever his name is. Who cares? Who cares at this point? This movie's terrible. We're not going to remember any of this. You don't need to see this movie. This movie is terrible. Fodder, maybe? I don't know. I tuned out, Jurgit. He straps him in this thing that teaches them the Cyclone's language and all about science and stuff. So then Johnny is teaching the humans about this stuff and saying this is our way to get free. So he breaks the security code and they steal a bunch of weapons and they try to turn on Trotter or John Travolta's character, whatever his name is. John Travolta's like, don't you know anything about firearms? They're never stored loaded. So then he threatens to kill them, but he doesn't because Johnny can speak their language. So then he continues to teach Johnny how to do things like pilot planes and sends him out to mine gold out of this gold field. There's too much radiation for the cyclones, but has enough radiation for humans to mine. Because that's his scheme. His scheme is to get gold so he can be rich. Humans, though, outthink him. And Johnny reads about some place called Fort Knox when Trotter or John Travolta or whatever his name is takes him to the the Denver Museum to learn about a human's past. He reads about Fort Knox, and they break into Fort Knox and steal a bunch of gold, which the Cyclones apparently did not bother reading about for some reason, though they are gold and mineral obsessed. Seems like a huge flaw in this story. So they break into Fort Knox and steal a bunch of gold and turn it in. In the meantime, Johnny then takes a bunch of people down to Texas in the ship that John Travolta taught him to fly, and they're training people on flight simulators to fly planes out of this Fort Hood Air Base. Those who may remember Fort Hood is the place where the shooting took place a few years ago. Actually, I think it was like 10 or 15 years ago. But Fort Hood was a good place before then, and now it's just known as Fort Hood. Now, they're going to supposedly beat them. And Johnny realizes that a nuclear weapon will react badly with the chemicals in the Cyclone's air and will destroy their planet. But surprisingly, it completely blows up their planet when he does it, instead of just igniting the air and wiping out all life. So apparently, it does a lot more damage than we thought. I don't understand the physics of this, but I am not a physicist. If I was a physicist, I would understand. So if a physicist is watching, please explain this scene in the comments. But they make this plan to overthrow them. And then they execute this plan in the final battle, which is epic. And I'm not going to go into all the details. Several people die, and they eventually overcome the Cyclones and capture Terrell or Tyrell or whatever his name is, played by John Travolta, in Fort Knox, with Forrest Whitaker turning good. This movie is awful. This movie is awful. I just repeated myself. I will repeat myself again. This movie is awful. Do not watch it. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It might be the worst movie I've ever seen. It is badly directed. It is badly acted. It is badly everything. It is a bad script. It has Kelly Preston in it just for the sake of putting a woman in it. Just for the sake of having a woman put a tongue out. It is a horrible movie. I'm surprised they didn't stick boobs in it just to make it better. Apparently, this movie was made. Okay, the book is wrote by the guy who founded the Church of Scientology. And the book is actually good. The book actually makes sense. The movie does not make sense. No matter how hard it tries, it does not. There's a million plot holes in the movie. Maybe because the movie's 2 hours long and the book is like 600 pages. But then again, the book has 3 parts, and the book's like 900 pages, and each part's like 300 pages. And it goes into a bunch of other details. But apparently, the Church of Scientology had a lot to do with the making of the movie, and just about everybody in the movie is Scientologists, and it killed the career of everybody in the movie. Because the movie is that bad. I'm not sure if the director went to film school. I'm not sure if anyone who was involved in this movie went to film school. But if they did, their film school should disown them. Do not watch this movie. I paid for this movie, and I can regrettably say I would have rather burned those $4 than watch this movie. Next week, we have a special request, Birdemic 2, which I'm also not looking forward to reviewing because Birdemic 1 was awful. But I suppose Birdemic 2 can't be any worse than Birdemic 1 because Birdemic 1 was awful. So tune in next week. Once again, do not watch Battlefield Earth. If you want to rent it, just burn your money. It'll be more exciting than watching Battlefield Earth. See you next week.